ready to let go of the past.
Sounds like a plan.
That's what we're diving into today, using this talk by John McConnel. He's a teacher with the Brahma Kumaris. Familiar with them?
Yeah, actually I am. They're really interesting. It's a spiritual organization,
Yeah.
global, and led by women. All about, you know, self-realization and positive transformation, that sort of thing.
Yeah, in John's talk, what I really like about it is he brings in his personal story, makes it so relatable.
Everyone loves a good story. And he really gets into it, too. Like right off the bat, he talks about his childhood.
Yeah, it wasn't easy for him.
No, not at all. His mom was sick. He struggled with anxiety, stammering, even had a deep lack of trust. Tough stuff.
And you can just tell it really shaped who he is.
Oh, absolutely. It makes you think, you know. We've all got those things from our past that kind of stick with us.
Totally. And John talks about this event. When he was 11, he failed this really important exam,
Oh, wow.
and it just messed him up. He felt all this pressure to succeed, and then bam, failure.
It's got to be hard at that age to bounce back from.
Yeah. And for him, it kind of turned into this obsession. Like he never wanted to fail again, ever.
Wow. I could see how that would happen. So what's his point with all this?
It's like he's saying we all have a story, right?
Right.
And those past experiences, good or bad, they become part of us. They affect how we think, how we feel, even how we act today, you know?
Yeah.
Like without even realizing it.
It's true, you don't always make the connection, but yeah, it makes sense.
And get this, he even talks about how our bodies can hold on to these past experiences.
What, like physically?
Yeah. He went to this workshop where they were talking about it, how our bodies store memories of stress and trauma.
Interesting. You know, come to think of it, have you ever noticed like a headache coming on when you're super stressed?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or like a tight chest when you think about something painful? It's weird.
Right. John's saying those might be your body remembering, holding on to those past experiences.
Wow. That's kind of freaky, actually.
It is. And it makes you wonder if our bodies are holding on to all that negativity, how do we let go of it? How do we actually release it?
Okay, now that's the million-dollar question.
Right. And that's where the Brahma Kumaris teachings come in.
Okay, so what's their take on it?
They believe at our core, we're not our bodies, our jobs, our stuff. We're not even those negative emotions.
So it's like all that stuff is temporary.
Yeah, they're like layers, not the real us.
So who are we then, underneath it all?
They say we're these peaceful souls, full of love and positive energy.
Okay, I like that. But how do you even begin to see yourself that way? Especially if you've got all this baggage weighing you down.
That's the thing. Recognizing that true self, that's the first step to letting go.
Okay, I can see that. So it's like a shift in perspective. But how do you actually make that shift? Like practically speaking.
Well, John says it's a two-part process.
Ooh, 2 parts. I'm intrigued.
And the first part might surprise you. He calls it connect with the good.
Connect with the good.
Yeah, it's about focusing on the positive, the good stuff in your past, instead of dwelling on all the negative.
Huh. So you don't just ignore the bad stuff.
Not exactly. It's more about balancing it out,
Yeah.
appreciating those good times, those moments of strength.
So almost like intentionally shifting your focus.
Yeah, because the Brahma Kumaris believe, we have all this goodness inside of us naturally, and sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that.
Makes sense.
So that's part one, connect with the good. What about part two? How do we actually release the negative stuff that's weighing us down?
Yeah, that's the real challenge, right? Getting rid of that baggage.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. John calls it acknowledge, accept, and release.
Okay, acknowledge, accept, and release. Tell me more.
And to illustrate it, he tells this story about himself, about this meditation session where he decided to confront his anger head on.
Oh, wow. Confront his anger. That sounds intense.
It was. He went back through all these instances where he felt anger, really acknowledging the feelings attached to those events.
So like really sitting with those feelings, not pushing them away.
Exactly. And then he made a conscious choice to release them.
Just like that.
Well, it wasn't easy, but he did it. He even went so far as to forgive the people involved.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage. I mean, to forgive people who've hurt you.
It does. And he described it as being so liberating, like a huge weight had been lifted.
It's amazing how powerful forgiveness can be. Like, it's not just for the other person, it's for you too.
Right. And he's clear that it wasn't a quick fix. It was just the first step on a longer journey of healing.
Yeah, it's a process, not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
But to even start to release that negativity, that's got to be huge.
Oh, absolutely. And John also makes this point that Holding on to resentment and bitterness, it keeps us stuck in the past. It prevents us from truly moving on.
Yeah, you got to let go to move forward.
So forgiveness is a key part of this whole
He
process.
makes it pretty clear that it's essential for true letting go,
Hmm.
but he also acknowledges that it can be really hard.
Yeah, especially when you've been hurt.
Right, like how do you actually forgive someone who really hurt you?
And does forgiving them mean what they did was okay?
Those are tough questions,
Yeah.
for sure.
And you know what? He answers them head on.
Okay, I'm all ears. What does he say?
He explains that forgiving someone doesn't mean you're condoning their actions.
Right, that makes sense.
It's more about freeing yourself from that anger and resentment so you can finally move on.
It's like holding on to anger hurts you more than anyone else.
Exactly. He even uses that saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one. So true. So it's more about self-preservation than anything else.
Yeah, in a way. And John adds another layer to it.
Okay, I'm listening. Another layer.
He talks about how understanding the bigger picture can help us foster compassion.
Compassion for the person who hurt you.
Exactly. He reminds us that everyone's carrying baggage from their past. Hurting people hurt others.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, everyone's going through something.
Exactly. And when we can recognize that, it becomes easier to see things from a different perspective.
It's like taking the personal sting out of it.
Right. It wasn't necessarily about you. It was more about them and their own unresolved stuff.
Yeah, that makes it a little easier to swallow. Not that it makes it okay.
Exactly. But when we can view those past hurts with compassion and understanding, John says, forgiveness becomes a lot easier.
And then you can break free from that cycle of pain.
Right. It allows us to finally break free from that cycle of pain and resentment.
Sound good to me.
So we've talked about forgiveness, but even when you know it's important, it can still be tough, right? To actually
Yeah.
do it.
It's one thing to say it, another to really feel it.
Does John offer any advice on putting it into practice?
He does, actually. His advice is maybe surprisingly simple.
Oh.
But it's powerful stuff.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Write it all down.
Write it down.
Yep, make a list, everything from your past that's causing you, pain, anger, resentment, anything you want to let go of.
Interesting. It's almost like getting it out of your head and onto paper.
Exactly. It gives those thoughts and emotions a form.
Right. Instead of them just swirling around inside.
It's a way to externalize that struggle. And John says it can help you see things more clearly, get some distance,
Makes sense. But it's not just about acknowledging what happened, right? There's more to it.
You got it. John talks about acceptance,
Yeah.
too. Really accepting those experiences.
That's tough.
No doubt. It can be tempting to, sweep those painful memories under the rug.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Pretend they never happened.
But John suggests, for real healing, you got to be honest with yourself about how you've been affected.
Otherwise, it's like they're still there, lurking in the shadows.
Exactly. Still influencing you, whether you realize it or not.
Okay, so we've acknowledged, we've accepted, we've written it all down. What next?
This is where it gets interesting. Ready for this? John suggests tearing up that list.
Tearing it up. Seriously.
Seriously. But not in a, angry way. He says, do it with love.
With love. That's kind of hard to imagine.
I know, right? But it's about releasing those feelings.
I guess I can see that. Symbolically, at least.
Exactly. And John suggests burning the list or throwing it away, something that really shows you're letting go.
It's like a ritual almost, a way to mark that shift.
It is.
Yeah.
And sometimes those tangible actions, they're really helpful when you're dealing with stuff like forgiveness.
Right. It's not just in your head anymore. It's something you're actively doing.
You're engaging your whole self, body, mind, and spirit.
Okay, so we've gotten rid of the list, but the memories are still there.
Yeah, you can't just erase the past completely.
So how do we deal with those memories?
Well, John encourages us to step back, see the bigger picture. He reminds us of that saying, hurting people hurt others.
Right. It's not about excusing what they did.
No, but it's about understanding. Maybe they were hurting too.
Yeah. Hurt people hurt people. Right. When you get that, it's almost easier to feel compassion for them.
It is. And it helps you separate yourself from the hurt.
Right. It wasn't necessarily personal.
More like their own baggage, their own stuff they're dealing with.
And when you can see it that way, John says, forgiveness becomes a lot easier.
It's like a weight lifts off your shoulders.
It allows us to break free from that cycle of pain
Yeah,
and resentment.
exactly. It's about freedom. And, it's interesting. Earlier, John was hesitant to use the word God.
He was. Why?
He said it can be, loaded, for some people. But when he talks about forgiveness, he brings in the concept of a higher power, specifically God, as the remover of sorrow.
Interesting. So he's suggesting maybe connecting with that divine love can help you heal.
It's like you don't have to carry that burden alone.
There's something bigger than yourself to support you.
Exactly. Whether you call it God, the universe, whatever, it's there.
That's a comforting thought. Like, even when you feel totally broken, you're not alone.
And along with being the remover of sorrow, he mentions another title for God, the bestower of happiness.
Oh, wow.
He's saying, when you release that sorrow, you create space for happiness to flow in.
I love that. It's like clearing out the old to make way for the new. And, thinking back to what John said about our bodies physically storing memories.
Yeah.
Do you think our bodies remember the good stuff too, just as strongly as they remember the pain?
That's a good question.
Hmm.
I mean, we know positive experiences have a powerful impact on us. So it makes sense, right?
It does. And it brings us back to that first step, connecting with the good.
Exactly. It's not just about letting go of the bad, it's about cultivating the good.
Building those positive memories.
Nurturing those feelings of joy, love, peace.
It's a lifelong journey, isn't it?
It is a process of growth and transformation.
Well said. Now, John also brings up reincarnation, which is a whole other layer to this idea of letting go.
Oh yeah, that part. He even jokes about not being that mad to want to go through another difficult life.
Right. But there's a serious point there, too.
Absolutely. He's suggesting if we don't deal with those negative patterns, we might carry them with us.
Not just in this life, but maybe even into future lives.
Whoa, that's a heavy thought.
It makes you want to do the work now, right?
Yeah, no time like the present.
Let go of that baggage and move on.
To a brighter future.
So, having gone this deep into John's talk, what stands out to you the most?
You know, what really struck me is how he doesn't just say, forget your past. It's more like, really explore it.
Yeah.
See how it shaped you. Even find compassion for the people who, hurt you.
It's not about pretending it didn't happen.
Right. It's about, like, changing how you see it.
And I love those practical tips, like writing it all down and then actually tearing it up.
Yeah, it's so tangible.
It's not just like think positive kind of stuff. There's action involved.
I like that too. And that visual he uses connecting with, like, a spiritual sun.
Oh, yeah.
All that love and healing energy pouring down on you.
It just makes you feel lighter, like a weight's been lifted.
Yeah,
And it reminds you you're not alone in this.
definitely not.
You have your own inner strength, but there's also something bigger you can tap into.
Whether you call it God, the universe,
Right.
or just that feeling of deep peace. It's there.
So after going this deep with John's talk, what are the big takeaways for our listener today?
I think the biggest one is letting go is a journey.
Yeah.
It's not a destination. It takes time, effort, and, honesty with yourself.
About how those experiences have shaped you, good and bad,
Exactly. And like John showed us, compassion is key.
for yourself and others.
For sure.
And remember that two-part process. Connect with the good, and then acknowledge, accept, and release the negative. That's something you can start doing right now.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance.
Remembering your own goodness, while also taking care of those wounds that need healing.
It's about, becoming whole,
Yeah.
integrating all parts of yourself.
And forgiveness. Don't underestimate its power.
It might not be easy, but it's the key.
To really freeing yourself from the past.
It's a gift you give yourself.
It opens the door to so much more. Healing, growth, peace.
Beautifully said.
As we come up from this deep dive, here's something to think about. John talked about how holding on to anger, it affects us physically.
Right.
But what about the good stuff? Do you think our bodies remember joy, love, those peaceful moments, just as strongly as they remember the pain?
That's a great question. What do you think? And if this deep dive has sparked something for you, check out the Brahma Kumaris, their website, and their course on overcoming anger. We'll link them in the show notes. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep letting go of what no longer serves you.